Jesse's Jabber with a friendly face. Welcome into your favorite space. If it's on his mind or it's in the air, and you've got a minute, drag up a chair. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Stay a while and enjoy the chat. Jesse's Jabber, Jesse's Jabber. Time goes by, life goes faster. Take a minute just to clear your head. Maybe there's comfort in the words that he says. Going through life with his kids and his wife. Throws in sports and some PS5. No hot takes, he just shoots it straight. Just a regular guy at the end of the day. If you found your way through the endless noise and clatter, listen in, maybe tell a friend. This is Jesse's Jabber.
Thanks to the help of a newfound friend, the great white whale just hauled me, Maria, and the squad, otherwise known as our children, to Florida and back. We took a much-needed vacation. We enjoyed the sunny weather, the screened-in pool at our rental house, and most of all, our time together. My parents came along for fun, games, pool time, and to get away as well. We celebrated birthdays, hit the arcade, and even had a sampling of seafood that some of us enjoyed and some turned up their noses. The squad, they played hard every day and slept hard every night. Tonight, as they're all settled into bed, after we spent this week getting back into our routines, I'm settling back in on the mic. If you've ever watched, studied, or played sports, you know that every sport has boundaries. Football has sidelines. Basketball has sidelines and baselines. Baseball has foul lines and fences. Even golf has out-of-bound markers. If you've watched enough youth sports, you've probably seen a coach trying to explain to an 8-year-old why he can't erase the white line with his shoe, bat, glove, or his hand. That line means something. Without boundaries, there isn't much of a game. There's just a bunch of people running around and arguing about what counts and what doesn't. And if you don't believe that, just listen into my backyard during one of the squad's midsummer pickup baseball games. What's funny is, we understand that in sports. Nobody watches an NFL game and gets mad because the officials blow the whistle when somebody goes out of bounds. Nobody says, come on, let him keep running. Boundaries are restrictive. We accept them because we know they're part of the game. Life, on the other hand, that's where we get confused. This is Jesse's Jabber, outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Let's get into it. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. Today's society tries to convince us, and maybe we've started believing, that having boundaries means we're selfish. If we say no, we're difficult. If we don't answer every phone call, respond to every text immediately, volunteer for every committee, solve every family problem, or carry everyone else's emotional baggage, somehow we're the bad guy. I don't think that's true. I think a lot of good people are just exhausted. Not because they're doing the wrong things, because they're trying to do everything. Maria and I, we know that feeling. There's days when work has been nonstop. The phone rings all day, emails stack up. Somebody needs something before we've even had our first cup of our caffeine of choice. Then we head home. The squad has questions, practice, schedules, homework, dinner, laundry. Somebody can't find a shoe. Somebody else needs a permission slip that was apparently due yesterday. And somewhere in the middle of all that, one of us asks, "Did you remember?" No, we didn't. In fact, we're lucky we remembered our own name today. And before anybody starts judging, if you've ever stood in your kitchen holding your car keys while looking for your car keys, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Life gets full. Not bad, just full. There's a difference. Where a lot of us get into trouble is we confuse being available with being faithful. We think being a good spouse means never saying, "I need a minute." We think being a good parent means fixing every problem before our kids ever have to face it. We think being a good employee means never turning down another task. We think being a good friend means always answering the call, even when we've got nothing left in the tank ourselves. And eventually, we look around and wonder why we're so tired. I've learned something over the years from watching sports. Good coaches don't call a timeout because they're giving up. They call a timeout because they understand something that us fans often forget. You can't run the next play well if your team is completely spent. Sometimes you need 30 seconds to catch your breath, gather everybody together, make an adjustment, and get back in the game. Nobody questions that. In fact, we usually call it good coaching. But when we do something similar in our own lives, suddenly, people start asking questions. Why haven't you called? Where have you been? You've changed. Maybe. Or maybe we're just paying attention to our own mental health. There's a difference. And before anybody thinks this episode is about telling everybody no, let me just say this. I don't think healthy boundaries mean shutting people out. I don't think they're an excuse to become cold, distant, or impossible to reach. And I definitely don't think they're permission to stop showing up for the people who depend on us. If we're married, our spouse deserves our best effort. If we're raising kids, they deserve our presence. If we've committed to something, our word should still matter. This isn't about avoiding responsibility. It's about understanding the difference between being responsible and being burdened. Those aren't the same thing. One is part of a healthy life. The other will wear you out. One of the conversations we've had with the squad over the years is about the word no. In our house, if Maria or I gives an instruction that's safe, appropriate, and part of being a family, no isn't really one of the options. If we ask you to take out the trash, feed the dog, clean your room, or come to the dinner table, we're not negotiating a peace treaty. You're part of a team. Everybody has responsibilities. The same goes for teachers, coaches, and other adults who've been entrusted with caring for you. Respect matters. Following directions matters. Character matters. But we've also tried to teach them something else. Just because we respect authority doesn't mean we have to surrender our values. We're allowed to say no when somebody pressures us to do something wrong. We're allowed to say no when someone encourages us to compromise our integrity. We're allowed to say no to relationships that consistently tear us down instead of build us up. We're allowed to say no to things that steal our peace. That's not disrespect. That's wisdom. somewhere along the way, those two ideas have gotten blurred together. Some people either think they have to say yes to everything or no to everything. Neither one is healthy. Wisdom is learning the difference, because every opportunity isn't our opportunity. Every request isn't our responsibility. And every relationship isn't meant to have unlimited access to our time, our energy, and our heart. That's not selfish. That's taking care of what matters most. One of the biggest misunderstandings about boundaries is that people think they're meant to keep others out. I don't think that's it at all. Healthy boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. Think about our own house. Most of us lock our doors at night. That doesn't mean we don't like having people over. It doesn't mean we're unfriendly. It just means not everybody gets unlimited access whenever they want it. The people closest to us know they're welcome. The people who don't know, well, they're probably going to be standing on the porch for a little while. If we set boundaries with our home, it only seems right to have them with our life. Not everyone should have the same level of access to our time, our emotions, or our attention. That doesn't make them bad people. It just means every relationship has a different role. Sports teach us that all the time. Every player on a team wears the same jersey, but they don't all have the same assignment. The quarterback doesn't try to play offensive line. The offensive line doesn't run the routes. The coach isn't trying to kick field goals. Everybody contributes, but everybody contributes differently. Relationships are a lot like that. Some people need us more during certain seasons of life. Maybe it's a friend who's walking through a rough patch. Maybe it's a coworker who's overwhelmed. Maybe it's an aging parent. Maybe it's one of our kids who's having a rough year. Those people may require more from us for a while, and that's okay. Love isn't always convenient. Sometimes showing up costs us something. But there should also be people in our life who remind us that we're not carrying everything by ourselves. People who call just to check on us. People who make us laugh when we forgot we needed one. People who ask, "How are you doing?" and then wait for the answer. Those relationships matter. Because if every relationship in our life is one where we're constantly pouring out, eventually there's nothing left to pour. I think that's why humans seem to thrive in community instead of isolation. Not because we're supposed to carry everyone else's load ourselves, but because we're supposed to help carry one another's. There's a difference. Every team needs players who score. Every team also needs players who set screens, make the extra pass, dive after loose balls, and do the things that never make the highlight reel. Championship teams have both. Healthy lives do too. I've heard people say, "I just don't need anybody." I'm not buying that. We all need somebody. Even the strongest people need people. Sometimes it's a spouse. Sometimes it's a lifelong friend. Sometimes it's a coworker who notices you're carrying more than usual. Sometimes it's a parent who's been there before, or a neighbor who shows up at just the right time. Nobody was designed to do life completely alone. At the same time, I don't think we were designed to carry every burden that walks through the door. That's where perspective comes in. Perspective asks a different question than guilt does. Guilt says, if you don't fix this, you're a bad person. Perspective asks, Is this mine to carry? Those are completely different conversations. I've been guilty of picking up backpacks that didn't belong to me. Not real backpacks. Although the squad leaves plenty of those lying around too. I'm talking about emotional backpacks. Someone else's poor planning. Someone else's bad decision. Someone else's constant drama. Someone else's refusal to take responsibility. Some of us carry those things because we genuinely care. Others carry them because we don't like disappointing people. Either way, after a while, our back starts hurting. And then we wonder why. Maybe it's because we've been carrying things that were never ours to begin with. Now, don't get it twisted. Helping people is a good thing. If someone gets a flat tire, help them change it. If someone loses a loved one, sit with them. If someone needs a meal, take one. If someone falls down, help them back up. That's what decent people do. But there's a difference between helping someone up and carrying them when they're perfectly capable of walking. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people experience the natural consequences of their own choices. That's hard, especially if we're a parent, especially if we're someone who likes fixing problems, especially if our heart breaks when somebody we care about is hurting. But rescuing someone over and over can quietly become something else. It can become enabling. And enabling doesn't help people grow. It just delays the lesson. Something I've noticed from watching kids play sports is that good coaches don't run onto the field every time a player makes a mistake. They coach. They teach. They encourage. They correct. Then they let the player run the next play. Because confidence doesn't come from somebody else playing the game for us. It comes from learning that we can play it on our own. That's true in our lives too. Sometimes the people we love most need encouragement. Sometimes they need accountability. Sometimes they just need us to believe they're capable of handling what's in front of them. That isn't giving up on them. It's believing in them enough not to take every challenge away. And while we're talking about saying no, can we admit something? Some of us are terrible at it. We'll say yes to something we don't have time for, then complain about how busy we are. We'll volunteer for one more thing. We'll agree to another meeting. We'll promise to help with another project. Then we'll get home, exhausted, and accidentally give our family whatever energy we have left over. I've done it. We've all done it. The people we love the most often get the smallest pieces of us because everybody else got there first. That's backwards. Our priorities shouldn't get whatever survives. The leftovers. They should get our best whenever possible. Does that mean we'll always get it right? Of course not. Life happens. Schedules get crazy. Unexpected things pop up. But it's worth asking ourselves every once in a while, who gets the best version of me? The people I love most? Or just the people who asked first? That's an important question. Because boundaries aren't just about learning when to say no. Sometimes they're about learning who deserves our best Yes. I think one of the hardest parts about this whole conversation is that boundaries can get a bad reputation. The moment somebody starts protecting their time, their family, or their peace, people sometimes assume they've become selfish. But I don't think that's always what's happening. Sometimes people aren't pushing others away. Sometimes they're simply trying to recover. There's a difference between isolation and recovery. Isolation says, I don't need anybody. Recovery says, I need a little time so I can be the person the people around me deserve. Those are two completely different mindsets. Think about a football team at halftime. Nobody accuses them of quitting because they walked into the locker room. They're making adjustments. They're catching their breath. They're treating injuries. They're talking through what worked and what didn't. Then they come back out ready for the second half. Life has half times too. Sometimes we need an evening at home instead of another obligation. Sometimes we need to turn the phone over and be fully present with our family. Sometimes we need a drive with the radio turned up instead of one more conversation. Sometimes we need a Saturday where the calendar isn't packed from sunrise to bedtime. It doesn't mean we love people less. It means we're trying to make sure we still have something meaningful to give them tomorrow. We've almost started wearing exhaustion like it's a badge of honor. Somehow, if we're overwhelmed, stressed out, overcommitted, and running on 4 hours of sleep, it proves we're important. I don't know who started that competition, but I'd like to opt out. Being constantly busy does not automatically mean we're being productive. And being available to everyone doesn't automatically mean we're being faithful to what matters most. One of the greatest gifts we can give the people closest to us is our attention. Not our leftovers, our attention. I know that's easier said than done. There's seasons when work's demanding. There's seasons when the squad has practices, games, appointments, school events, and enough laundry to fill a small department store. There's seasons when life simply doesn't slow down. But even in those seasons, we can choose what gets our focus. We can choose whether we're physically present while mentally answering emails, or whether we put the phone down long enough to hear about the science project, the funny thing that happened at lunch, or why somebody suddenly wants pancakes for dinner on a Tuesday. Those little moments don't seem all that important while they're happening. And yet, years later, they're often the ones we remember. As parents, one of the greatest responsibilities we have is preparing our kids for life beyond our house. That means teaching kindness. It means teaching respect. It means teaching responsibility. It also means teaching perspective. We've tried to teach the squad that respecting authority and having healthy boundaries are not opposites. If mom says it's time to clean your room, that's not the moment to start practicing your boundary setting skills. Go clean your room. If your teacher gives you an assignment, do the assignment. If your coach tells you to hustle, hustle. Those moments build discipline. But if someone pressures you to compromise your character, if someone constantly tears you down, if someone only shows up when they want something, if someone repeatedly encourages you to become less than who you know you're supposed to be, You don't have to keep opening that door. You can be respectful without surrendering your values. I hope the squad carries that lesson long after they're grown. I hope they become adults who are dependable without becoming doormats, who are generous without being taken advantage of, who love deeply without losing themselves in the process. Because that's what healthy boundaries make possible. They don't make relationships smaller. They make them stronger. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If so, I'd love for you to give it a like and a follow, leave a rating or review wherever you listen, and share this episode with someone that could use a reminder that protecting our peace and loving people well can exist at the same time. Every share helps this podcast reach someone new, and I'm grateful for every one of you who keeps coming back each week. As I was thinking about this episode, one thought kept coming back to me. Every sport has officials. Nobody likes every call. Fans argue. Coaches disagree. Players throw their hands in the air. But without someone enforcing the boundaries, the game eventually falls apart. Sometimes the hardest official to listen to in our life is our own conscience. It tells us when we're overcommitted. It tells us when we're neglecting our family. It tells us when we've taken on responsibilities that don't belong to us. It also tells us when we've become too isolated, when we've stopped returning calls, when we've convinced ourselves that nobody understands, when we've built walls instead of healthy boundaries. Listening to that voice takes humility. Ignoring it usually costs us something. Don't make a list of people we need to cut out of our life. That's not the point. Instead, ask ourselves a few simple questions. Where are we constantly running on empty? Who helps us become a better husband, wife, parent, friend, co-worker, or neighbor? Who leaves us encouraged? And who leaves us consistently drained? Are we giving our best energy to the people who matter most? And finally, is there one place where we need to lovingly but clearly draw a healthier line? We don't have to redraw our whole life overnight. Sometimes one honest conversation, one respectful no, or one intentional evening with the people we love can change more than we think. Boundaries aren't benches. A bench is where we sit because we're out of the game. Boundaries are the lines on the field that make the game possible. They don't keep us from playing. They help us play with purpose. This is Jesse's Jabber. Outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Drive safe. Hug your people. Set healthy boundaries. And we'll talk again soon.